All right, this next one comes in from Anonymous. Anonymous says, "Hey guys, love the show. Can't wait for video." Well, we're here.
Yay.
We did it. But now I need help. I've been sitting on this for so long, and it's finally gotten to the point where I don't know what to do. My husband's family still talks to his ex regularly, like all the time. And it has always bothered me, but obviously I can't control what they do. So I've tried for years to get over it, but lately it feels like it's become untenable. They bring her up in conversation. She'll randomly be at their house when we visit, and she's nice enough, but I just feel strange about him constantly having his ex around, even when it's not his choice when we're there. Feels like his family would rather he was with her than me. How do I confront them about this? Thanks for any help you can give. Ham, what do you think, man? What should she do?
Man, that's tough. If you haven't spoken to him about it first, I would say that's where you need to start. Like, that conversation needs to occur between the two of you, because then at that point, he at least understands your feelings, and whether or not he understands them or agrees with them or even just sympathizes, that's a starting point. And then he may know a better way to kind of broach that with his family to kind of lighten the blow. I feel like if you go in guns blazing, just trying to confront the family about it, it may get their hackles up. It may build more of a barrier between you and them and the relationship that you're trying to build. So yeah, I would say my advice would be talk to him first, express your concerns, see if he has noticed anything or if he understands where you're coming from. If he doesn't, or if he refuses to kind of understand that, I would point out specific examples. I would have those ready before you even talk to him, but have specific examples and see if he can sort of explain it, because, you know, some of it may be where you're constructing it because you're nervous about building a relationship with them. So it can get harder to kind of see that through somebody else's lenses, but vice versa.
Harder.
It can always get harder. But on the same side, like for them, they may not see it from your point of view. So be patient. It may take multiple conversations, and they may be doing that without even noticing. They may not even know that they're kind of keeping you at arm's length, or that they're bringing up his ex on so many occasions. But I would say start that conversation with him first, and then from there build into how you would approach that with the rest of his family. What about you, Tim? I know for you just kick in the door and be like, "What the fuck is wrong with all of you?" But
yeah, just cause chaos and drama.
You're kind of a wild
No, I'm a piece of shit is really what you're getting at. Yeah. No, I think so. Two things. One is I would say invite her into the relationship and just threesome. You know, that seems to me like the right way to go.
That.
Yeah.
I don't like that. No.
Sure you don't. I think you do like that, and you just don't want to admit it. No. So really, truthfully, what I think the issue is here is that, one, I want you to be able to understand why it's such a strong issue for you. Not to say that it shouldn't be. I'm in no way saying you shouldn't feel a certain way about this. I think that that's perfectly reasonable. But part of my thing is, you know, you had mentioned feels like they'd rather, what did you say? He was with her than with me. And that to me screams that there's a little bit of insecurity there for you. Like you might have some feelings, you might be, you know, you might feel inadequate, or you might feel like, you know, she's got something that you don't, or whatever insecurities. We all have them. I'm for sure not shitting on them because I have my own insecurities. But I think part of the concern with this for her is probably your insecurities, and you're feeling like, well, if she's always around, I'm always going to feel like she's there and like she's always like still a shot for him or whatever. So I think you need to confront that within yourself and work through that, maybe even before you address it with the family. Because I think if you address it with the family, or, you know, with your husband, and then you address it with the family together, and you go into it with this healthy mindset of, you know, it makes me uncomfortable that she is, you know, such a feature in our lives. She is his ex. I think it's fine for her to be around from time to time, but I'd really like it to not be a constant focus on her. I'd really like the focus to be on the family that we have now, the current, myself and my husband, all of us together, not her. But I do think that there's always going to be that, I think there's going to be that bit of like, oh, she's jealous. Like, I think the family, no matter what you do here, is always going to be like, well, just because, she and he are not together anymore, she worked her way into our family. Like, perfect example. So Sarah is still very much close with my family. Granted, we have a weird relationship. It's not as if like we are obviously exes, but our lives are not completely separated from each other. Like it sounds like, your husband and his exes are. But again, building that relationship, I'm big on, like, I've built a strong relationship with Sarah's family. They became my family, and us breaking up doesn't mean that like they're not family anymore and I don't care about them anymore. And same goes for my family with her. They built a relationship over the course of a decade plus. So it's not so easy to just be like, well, out of my life forever. So I think that's one perspective to come at it from for you, is to understand like, hey, she made herself a part of that family. She became a part of that family, and they may love her even though the relationship didn't work out. They still love her. They still want her to be a part of the life. It just might have to be, if you are uncomfortable with this and your husband is on board with it, it might have to be like, hey, we're totally cool that you have this relationship with her. We don't really want to be around her very often. Every once in a while is fine, but we don't want her to be such a big part of our lives. And if you approach it like that and they're kind of on board and everybody can kind of agree with it, I feel like you'll be okay. But if you approach it from the, she's his ex and she shouldn't be around, I think it will be, you'll get a lot more pushback, probably both from your husband and the family, maybe. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, and you kind of bring up an interesting point too, because I guess I missed that part where like she's still involved and around. Because here's the thing too, I don't know if you know what the relationship was before. Like they could have been like childhood friends. So this person has been around for an incredibly long time. So it's difficult to just say, hey, you know what? You got to go. Like we can't have you around because it makes me feel uncomfortable. There probably is more to that than what you may think. So I would say that conversation with your husband, that's where I'll kind of fall back to that. That's where you should start. But everything else, yeah, I think there is probably a degree of jealousy internalized that needs to be dealt with first, and understand like, what is it about this person being around that you're worried about? Is it just that the family brings this person up, or do you see your husband saying or doing things that would have you doubt his commitment to you?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because there's details that maybe haven't been discussed. And if there are issues, like you clearly made this very specifically related to his family and not necessarily him. But if he's doing things that are making you feel like maybe, she shouldn't be around, then that's definitely something to discuss with him. I agree 100%. It has to start first off with you internally figuring out where you're at and why you feel this way. And then it needs to continue on to your husband, and you need to go in together as a united front to be able to confront this. Because otherwise I think you're always going to run the risk of coming off as like the jealous woman, which is probably not the case. It doesn't sound like that's the case. It just sounds like you're like, this is a lot of her. And again, I'm trying to come at this from an outsider perspective, because again, in my life, if I were looking for a serious relationship, anybody that I'm with would have to be comfortable with having my ex regularly around, because she's in my life all the time. So, yeah, I think if you approach it from a healthy mindset and you go in together with your husband, I feel like that's the best way to do it. And it's not making demands. You're just bringing, hey, these are my concerns. These are my worries. These are my feelings. And hopefully, they can get on board with that.
Yeah, I like that.
At the end of the day, threesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easy solution. That's almost a cop out at this point. Well, let's all just fuck.
Yeah. I had somebody that I had been talking to at one point years ago after Sarah and I broke up. And she was like absolutely adamant that she was going to have sex with me and then go downstairs and get Sarah and bring her up and have her have sex with us as well. And it was like, I was like, no, neither of us are in any way interested in that. We do not have that kind of a relationship. And she was like, no, I'm very convincing. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. You're like, well, first you got to convince me to even want to have sex with you now. So I feel like you've created more barriers than you've broken down.
Yep. That didn't work for me.
No,
poorly done.
No, yeah.
Poorly
yeah. Or expertly done because she,
Yeah. If you were looking for an out, that was a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicely done.